everybody! Welcome to SkepTalk on the line. I am your host today, Shannon Q, and I am joined today by the incomparable, the fabulous DarkMatter2525. Thank you for being here with me today. I'm so excited. Are you as excited as I am?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I would be really excited to have me on.
I am. I could barely sleep last night. I was so excited. We were going over the questions I was going to ask at the beginning of the show. So we've already established why you're so awesome, if it hurts
Yeah,
to be as cool as you are.
yeah.
And now that the audience is here, like, can you relate it to them? Why we've established why you're so awesome and why you're so cool?
I, I mean, to go over the whole 5 hours again. I mean, I
It's
can't
fair.
remember everything that was said, and we only covered a fraction of it. So we would need to make this like a 1 week show,
Yeah,
realistically.
that's true. That's fair. We don't want people to just be here all day. People are going to be trying to call in. So the lines are open. So if anybody would like to call and challenge the great and powerful Dark Matter
Oh,
2525.
don't challenge me, please. I'm
Now's your
not. I'm,
chance.
I'm not that great. I was
It's all right. I'm here to back you up.
okay.
So what type of calls would you like to get? Like, is there like an ideal type of call?
Oh, no, no. I have no idea what to expect really. So everything is going to be a surprise.
Oh, okay. Well, as we're waiting for calls to come in, is there anything that you would like to inform the audience related to like what you've been doing on your channel, or for anybody who's foolish enough to not be familiar with you, why don't you tell them who you are, where to find you, and what you're up to on your channel?
Um, well, I do. I started my YouTube channel in 2008, so I've been around for a while now, going on 15 years, and I do these animations. Mostly, it's been animations. Um, being critical of religion, and there's a lot of satire and comedy in there mixed in, but some serious stuff too. um, and lately I've been kind of trying to branch out a little bit, and talk about not just religion, but other things, that similar things, that the same reasons I have problems with religion, I also have issues with other things as well, that kind of fall under the same umbrella. So I'm kind of trying to branch out and talk about that as well. And so that's kind of like what I'm working on now. This second video in which I'm doing that, where I examine. My last video was where I examined how propaganda spreads on the internet, because it's
Oh,
very vulnerable. The internet is very vulnerable to lies that are spread, and I want to show how people can fall for lies that are spread on the internet, and what to look out for as far in terms of propaganda, how you can tell something is not quite honest. And in the video I'm working on now deals with where we are. Like, a lot of people talk about how society is in decline, you know, and we're in trouble. And so I've been doing a lot of research into that, into various questions that I think it can provide us with a good idea of where we are as a society. And I think that it's not quite what people believe it is. I think that there are definite problems, but unfortunately, um, people are focused on the wrong things. You know what I mean? And I think that's a huge problem. People are focused on uh, culture war things that they think are going to cause the collapse of society, while ignoring things that could actually cause a collapse in our society. So that's what I want to straighten out in that video.
so you think that it's mostly the people are getting distracted by the wrong things. Like their focus is in the wrong area. Like they're focusing more on like petty
Yeah,
stuff and less on what the actual society level problem.
yeah, yeah. It's a culture war, and people concern themselves with like there's like a new satanic panic going on, and there's a transgender panic where people are so terrified of transgender people. That's not a problem. That's not
Yeah.
Transgender people are not a problem. Uh, and even if they were, which they're not, I want to make that clear. But even if they were, we're talking about a very tiny percentage of the population. You know, um, there's actual problems that are going under the radar, and that's what I'd like to straighten out in this video. I'm still in the middle of doing my research with it. There's tons of things to research, but part of it is examining where we've been. Uh, one of my inspirations for the video was people think that the past was so much better. So a lot of people think the past used to be much better, but
That drives me crazy.
yeah, like
Because for who?
right, and even for everyone, in some cases, like at the turn of the 20th century, 30% of all deaths were infants, children under 5 years old.
Yeah.
And throughout most of the last 2 millennia, it was up to 50% for prepubescent children. 50% of all deaths were prepubescent children. And now it's under 1%. And people have no idea what they're talking about when they talk about modern problems, and they think about, and they totally have a complete misconception of what the past was like. It's like people were living in a world where half of the deaths were little kids, and people were dying of things like diarrhea. I mean,
Yeah.
it just frustrates me that people can't appreciate the problems that we've solved, and then what they're so worried about now. And I don't want to be guilty of relative privation or anything like that, but I do want to put things into perspective, and I do want to try to recalibrate the way people see our problems so that they can focus on things that have a more of an impact.
Oh, I love it. And I'm such a big fan. I was so excited when you asked me to be part of your series, and like I was part of one of your series, and I was part of like an independent project that you did. And
Yeah,
it was just such a pleasure because I love the way that like you treat it as an art form as much as you treat it as a message. Like it's not just a message, like you deliver it through art, and you take it very, very seriously. Having worked with you directly, I have such respect for how seriously you take it and all the work that you put into it. So
well, thank you.
I just wanted to tell you that.
And I'm not
Already.
just reciprocating, because of you saying nice things, but you are the easiest person to work with, because you get things. Your instinct as an actress is spot on. Like, exactly what I want, and it's always like first take, and it's good, and it's great. And there's other people there. I'm like, I feel bad. I'm not a natural director. It's like I hear it and I don't like it, and I don't want to say I don't like it, but like, can you try it again, or can you give me 5 more? But with you, it was like first try, nailed it. Amazing. And
I would do it 100 more times.
All right, I'm holding it.
But only because you complimented me.
Okay, but I mean, it is a
compliments.
verbal binding contract.
It is, yeah. It's public record now too. That was a huge mistake on my part. All right, we do have calls coming in. I've been selfish and have just been chatting, so we will start taking calls. Are you ready, friend?
Okay, I hope so.
All right. We are going to talk to Clarence. Clarence, who we've spoken to before. Hi, Clarence. You are
Uh,
on the
Hi,
line.
Shannon.
What would you like to talk about today? Hi.
There's a bit of a problem. I'm getting this huge echo
Uh-oh.
in your voice, and I was also getting it for the call screener, and I mentioned it to the call screener. I was hoping it would go away when you came on, but you're echoing all over the place. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. Is the echo still occurring?
I'm sorry?
I said I can hear you okay. Is the echo still taking place?
Yes, it's huge. It's like...
All right, so give us a second to work it out. We'll bring you back in a second.
Okay.
You want to put him back on hold while
We'll come back to you, Clarence. Sorry, we've just got to get rid of the echo.
Thank you.
I'll return you to the queue.
What if you're God and we can't get rid of the echo?
That's a real problem.
And that ruins the show, because if we're trying to disprove God and we accidentally prove
and God's smiting us.
Yeah.
That's probably exactly what was going on. I had somebody on my channel the other day. He used to be a Christian singer. His name was Fanatic. His stage name was Fanatic. His name is Brady Goodwin, and he's deconverted, and his screen kept fluttering in and out because of the camera connection while we were live on air. And I was like, "Oh, that's God. We're getting sabotaged. We're getting sabotaged, Brady, because you deconverted, and now God is here to smite us."
Clarence,
that serves us right. Let this be our lesson. Oh, Clarence, I put him back in the queue. Oh, he's back out?
Clarence, if you'll say something, do you still hear an echo?
Yeah, huge echo.
You're hearing it now.
I'm sorry?
Oh, goodness. Hello?
I'm working on it. I just don't have a good reason for it at the moment, so I'm figuring it out. But you two should talk about your favorite ice creams or some shit.
Moon Mist. Moon Mist is my favorite. Yeah, I think that you can only get it in Nova Scotia, actually, which I just found out recently. It's like 3 different flavors: grape, banana, and blue raspberry. So it looks kind of like Neapolitan ice cream, but it's purple and yellow and blue.
That makes
one of
my eyes want to do this.
It is quite sweet. You know? It is quite sweet, but it's good. It's really good. What's your favorite ice cream?
Oh boy, it depends on. I mean, gosh, I haven't even had ice cream in so long.
You're probably healthy.
Butterscotch, or maybe butterscotch. I don't know. Chocolate. I'm boring.
Those are all fair. Those are all fair. Well, the lines are still open. Hopefully you don't get an echo. If anybody else would like to give it a try while we're working on fixing this sound. Is there anything that you are afraid of somebody to call about? I like people calling it about morality and the soul. That's my favorite thing to have a discussion about. Do you have a favorite thing to discuss? Or a thing that you absolutely hate discussing?
No, I can't say that I do in either direction. Because, I mean, I'm equally annoyed by all theist arguments. But
can't pick a favorite.
No. But if I do pick one that I'm afraid of, then of course, I mean, it's the internet, so of course that's going to guarantee it will happen.
Oh yeah.
So
people will inundate you on Twitter.
Let's try and bring Clarence in again. I'm not sure whether this will have fixed it or not, but at this point I'm pulling random levers to figure out, see if something works. Okay. Clarence, echo, yes or no?
Yeah, big echo. I don't get it when I'm listening on the web, but when I listen over call in studio, I get a huge echo.
Well, perhaps you could ask your question and we could answer it. You can do your best to listen so that we can make the best of it. At least if you ask your question, we can give an answer. Do you want to give that a try?
I'll tell you what. I mean, what I wanted to talk about is really more conducive to a back and forth, and it's not really just a specific question. I mean, generally, what I wanted to address is some people have expressed the idea that all religion, even people who are, just like not fundamentalist and who are not proselytizers and who, people like, religion light, like Unitarian Universalists and people like that, are still like a danger and a potential threat to society and everything like that, and that even they don't do anything positive. And I just wanted to get your input on that, and I wanted to push back on that because I strongly disagree with it.
Okay, well, that's something that I think both of us could easily talk about, since I'll allow our guests to go first.
I'm just. I think I'm going to hang up now so that I can listen to it on the web, because I don't get an echo on the web. But on Call-In Studio, I can barely understand what you're saying.
No, that's okay.
So,
you log off, and then we'll just go to town. That's a very robust question. I'm sure we'll have lots to say.
Okay.
Bye,
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. I agree with him. I don't think there's a big problem with religious moderates, and it could, and if you do think so, that could backfire. If we're totally intolerant of just even benign religious beliefs, then that'll cause a lot of pushback, I think. But beyond that, I mean, you can't force people into disbelief any more than you can force them into belief. So it's not really a moral issue for me. If somebody is a believer and they're not hurting anyone, then they're fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of share your sentiment, really. I think that quite often people, when they first deconvert especially, come out angry. And they come out angry at the ideology, and they see any member who's still affiliated with that ideology as a part of the problem that they're having. And they can blanket that anger over everybody without seeing any nuance. I think a lot of people do come out of it. Some people don't, though, and some people still they'll give up the religion but not give up the dogmatism, and now they're just dogmatic about hating religion and hating the people who believe in a religion, because they see that as like just this huge broad problem. I mean, I don't enjoy religion. I think that it leads to a lot of dangerous things, and we can point to them specifically. And I think that anybody who has a flawed epistemology, like as the groundwork for their perspective on the world, that opens up a lot of risk that's difficult to mitigate when it comes to how they interact with the world and society, and especially people who aren't like them. But we also don't want to suffer the same sort of dogmatist perspective that anybody who doesn't think like us equals bad person. That's a horrible way to interact with the world at large. I don't know. Do you differ on that, or do you think that we're kind of aligned?
I agree. Yes.
I'm calling in on the call-in system to hear the problem, but there isn't one when I call in.
Maybe he had both of them on. Maybe he had the stream on and also had Call-In Studio.
Oh.
Clarence in Ohio, it was, my God, the way I've been freaking out over here, thinking I broke something, or really that Arden broke something, and it wasn't our fault. Clarence, it was on your end, buddy. Love you. At least that's what it seems to be. We'll take another call and see if somehow when somebody else besides me calls, how it goes. There are other people calling in on the web caller. We'll see what happens. But I just broke and unbroke like 9 things to fix this. So I'm gonna hang up now.
Okay, good talk.
Thanks.
I bet you that's exactly what it was, because he probably had the show on while he was also in call-in studio, so you would hear both simultaneously.
Right.
I bet that's what it was. He was on the web. Yeah, I still think it's a good and valuable question. Hopefully, Terrence can call back at some point in time and we can explore it on his perspective more. But we do have more calls. So, are you ready for another one? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask you if you think if you notice a difference in somebody right before they deconvert. Like you were mentioning people who newly deconverted and how they can be a bit more rambunctious. And I've heard that people can seem like they're at their most extreme religious right before they give it up. That's what I've heard.
That's interesting. Like that could make sense to a certain degree, because if you're like, I mean, this is just really like anecdotal because I'm just basing it on myself and people like me. But it's such a common story that as you're deconverting, or you're on the precipice of it, you work double time to try to like affirm to yourself. It's like holding on by your fingernails, right? Like you tighten that grip because you feel like it's loosening. Like I might lose it if I don't hold on really, really, really tight. So you start to like really delve into it super deep in an attempt to find anything at all to justify it. Like you go all in. So I can absolutely see that being the case. I don't know if it would be unilaterally the case, but I can say for myself, for sure, it was.
Yeah, I don't have any data on it, but it's just something I've heard. So I was wondering what your experience was on that.
Well, I mean, it would be hard to get the data on that because you don't know if a person who is like that is on the precipice of deconversion, right? Until they go over the edge. So you wouldn't be able to retroactively collect it. I suppose it would have to kind of be like self-report would be the only thing that makes sense.
It would have to be like atheists who can
or recounting
or have self-aware enough to be able to report what they were like back before.
I can't see it making sense though, but also I think it kind of dies a slow death too. Like it's a death by 1,000 cuts a lot of time. Most people don't have an abrupt deconversion. It's not just like, oh well, I found out evolution's real and that was it. You know, it was. It's usually just over the course of like a long period of time until eventually it kind of you're just like, okay, well that was the last straw. I guess I'm done with that. Yeah,
I've always had.
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say we have more calls. The problem is that you and I are both chitty chatty. So let's take another call.
That's true. Okay.
All right. Chris from Nova Scotia. Oh, Chris is from my neck of the woods. Hi, Chris. You are on the line. What would you like to talk about today?
So I was looking to talk about dealing with tragedy, particularly family, when they like to say, it's God's will, and bless you, bless your heart, and all of those things. And I don't want to be rude because they're coming from a good place, but I don't know what to say.
Right. So I have a lot of thoughts about that, and I've spoken at length about how difficult it is to go through the mourning process. Like when I lost my dad last year, having to go through that as an atheist opened my eyes to a lot of things because other people were grieving adjacent to me, but not really with me because the way I was processing grief and the way that they were with the tools available to them from their religion were exceptionally different. So we couldn't really commiserate in the same sort of way because they felt as though my way of processing the grief wasn't affirming the hope that they had that they were going to see my dad again someday. And they didn't like that I just felt like that wasn't the case and that I was going to be having to process it without it. I think it all depends on the pre-existing relationship you have. Like there's no one piece of advice that you can give somebody that like in broad strokes is going to be applicable in every situation. I think that if you can sense that it comes from a place of condescension or animosity, you're going to deal with it in a different way than if you sense that it comes from a place where their intentions are, pure and they really believe that what they're saying to you is something that's going to be comforting. So I guess context would be important there.
Well, they're always saying the usual, she's in a better place right now. She's up there,
Right.
She's dancing with Jesus, and they have this wonderful fantasy in their mind. And I wish I could get on board, but I just can't.
I can 100% relate to that. And you don't have to. One of the things that I took on board was that other people were mourning too. And because the tools that they used weren't the tools that I was using, I didn't want them to force me to use their tools, right? Because I felt like I was doing it the way that was right for me. I also couldn't take their tools away from them because they didn't have anything to replace it, and that's what they needed at the time. Unfortunately, that did mean that it was exceptionally difficult for me because I felt like an island. Is that kind of what you're feeling right now, Chris?
It's hard because that's what's keeping them together, and I want to believe. I would love to believe she's up there happy, but
yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you are going through something. Dark Matter, do you have anything to contribute?
Yeah, I went through that as well. I lost my first son. He was born prematurely and didn't live for very long, but it was very devastating to us. And we weren't believers at the time. I've never been a believer. And my brother is a very diehard Christian, so his response was to say it's God's will and send me cards with Jesus and the cross and have all his church sign it and stuff like that. And honestly, that it made me very angry because why you're saying that God did this on purpose? Why would you think that? Why would you? And I'm not a believer. Like why? Would I come if someone you cared about died? Would I burst into the church and say, nope, he's not in heaven, not in hell, he's just gone? No, I would never do that. But what I internalized it, and I just
let me
try to dismiss it by saying,
I need to interrupt for a second.
Sure.
The caller, are you driving right now?
on the road, but I'm not driving.
Okay, if we can come off speakerphone or something, we're getting all the sounds of the car and all the stuff. But if you're not actively driving, we'll keep you on the call. But we have a no driving and calling policy, so that's what we're checking on for safety too. I'll let y'all take it back. Shannon, you're muted.
Okay.
Oops, sorry. Hi.
So what I was just going to say was I just internalized it, and I tried to tell myself he just doing what he thinks is best, and he's not doing it maliciously, and it's not really a time for a theological debate with him. So basically what it amounted to was that I never told him how I felt, and I just ignored it. And that was, gosh, that was so many years ago. And he wouldn't know it unless he watched the show right now,
Yeah.
And I think I was just going to say, it didn't, my ability to just let it go, I think, helped our relationship as brothers. Didn't put it as it didn't put it as a tension,
Yeah, I think that goes towards the context, right? Because some people say things like that in a condescending way to like get at you. Like when Dad passed, I have a cousin who's a relative that's has an animosity towards me related to online activism and how they perceive that I've conducted myself in the past in this sphere, and et cetera, et cetera. So when my father passed away, like sent me prayer hands and like he's with God sort of thing, knowing that like it seemed to me that may not have been the intent, but given our history, it seemed passive aggressive to me in the worst conceivable time to be passive aggressive to me. So I just told myself I don't need somebody who's willing to hurt me on purpose in that situation to be a part of my life unless they line themselves up better. But everybody else around me was going through the same things that I was going through, but they'd been taught their entire life that this religious system was the coping mechanism, right? I've been developing different coping mechanisms because I don't have the religion, but that they weren't doing it out of animosity, even though it may have angered me because I was like, you know, I watched the man die, and I know that it didn't need to happen, and I know that that I'm not going to see him again, and you telling me that don't worry, you are going to see him again just infuriates me because no, I'm not. Yeah. Like, stop saying that to me. I don't want to hear that. But they weren't trying to hurt me. They were trying to make me feel better. And I just had to kind of remember that intention towards me mattered more than them not understanding the impact on me. Does that make sense?
Yes. And that's how I dealt with my brother. But on the flip side to that, so I'm talking maybe 2009, I remember mentioning it in like a YouTube comments section, talking, having a back and forth with someone. And some other theist picked up on it, Christian, and then used it against me to say, aha, so this is why he's an atheist, because his kid died, and he's mad at God. And like I said, I've never been religious. Yeah. I was not religious even before my kid died, but it happens in a couple different ways. You have those who say, oh, now that's the only reason he's an atheist is because he hates God now because of this happened. And then you have those who say, oh, that's God punishing him. It's his fault his kid died. It's like, and I'm thinking to myself, why the fuck would you worship a God who kills a baby, to punish the father? Which, I mean, of course, because it's in the Bible that God has punished children to, not punish children, but use children to punish their parents. Was it King David's son? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Who got killed in order to punish him. Yeah, I mean that's insane. That's not justice. That's absurd. And for people to worship a God who would do that is terrifying.
Especially to use it as a cudgel like that against somebody. That's reprehensible. Yeah. Like for anybody to do. Let alone act like you're the righteous one in this situation. It's disgusting. It's repugnant. I'm sorry.
Right. And we did, we even tried a couple of group therapy things right after it happened because we were going through hard times, and as far as we knew, looked like everyone else there were Christians. So, I mean, it's like, if God killed our kid because we're atheists, why is he killing all these Christians' kids, It happens to everybody. Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Like, if it was only only the children of atheists dying, then that's at least a pattern we can recognize. But there's no pattern. It happens to everybody. indiscriminately.
Unreal. I hate
And
to
of course,
transition
we
into
have
another call.
I just want to say,
Yeah.
we have a beautiful, happy 11-year-old boy now. So I'm very grateful for him anyway. Not that he's a replacement or anything, but at least, where he's helped. I think he's helped heal us quite a bit.
Children are the best. Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Other times I want to drive mine through a brick wall, to be honest. Most of the time I think he's the best.
We caught him playing in the sink yesterday, and let me just say this: the light fixtures were wet. That's how bad it was. Yeah.
Yep, I got one of those. Gets yogurt on things that don't even make sense. Oh, Clarence is trying again. All right, let's see. All right, Clarence, we're gonna bring you back on. Make sure that only one web app is open. Clarence, you are on the line. Please tell me there's no echo.
There's no echo. But I just want to say, I just want to say I did not have both on. I'm an IT guy, and I would never do that. But calling back seemed to have solved the problem. So you sound fine now. Awesome. I just wanted to say a proper hello because because the echo, I didn't do that. Shannon, good to talk to you. And Dark Matter, I am not familiar with your work, but when I heard that you were going to be on with Shannon, I briefly checked out your channel, and it looked like some really interesting stuff. So I'm really glad to have discovered that, and I'll be looking into it.
Okay, thank you. But don't look too much.
Anyway,
just give a passing glance.
Yeah, I want to maintain your respect.
Sure you'll have. Getting back to the subject, I appreciate what both of you said. I'm glad you agree with me on that, and I kind of wanted to tie that in to the idea of the importance of community, because I think we all agree that community is really important, basic human need, possibly as powerful as the need for family. And I don't know if you read my call screening notes, but I introduced the phrase atheist purity culture, which is something I just coined recently. And it doesn't have anything to do with sex or sexuality. It has to do with the idea that you only want to associate in community with other atheists. And I just wanted to give an example of a community that I previously belonged to. The only reason I don't belong to it anymore is because I moved and it's far away now. But it was actually a community that centered around a church. But it was a Unitarian Universalist church. It wasn't, they weren't heavy-duty religionists. And around the core of membership of that church, there was a larger kind of extended community of people who weren't members of the church, but who attended all the really wonderful events that the church held that were all secular. I mean, things like farmers would come in and have a farmer's market in the parking lot. They would have concerts, all different kinds of music, dances. And that was my community. And it was in a church, not the church proper. It wasn't in the sanctuary. It was in this wonderful auditorium facility that they had. But I attended all kinds of wonderful things there. And all of it was mostly secular in content, concerts, poetry readings, potluck dinners. And they also emphasized charity work. And to me, it was an absolutely wonderful community. And more important than the religion to me was the kind of fact that everybody that associated with the church had humanist values. For example, one of the clergy members of the church was a lesbian woman. So, it was obviously a church that was totally LGBTQ friendly. And so if I had said, oh, well, I don't want to hang out with these people because, they're not all atheists or anything like that, I would have, kind of lost out on a lot. And
Do you think that there's a lot of people that are doing that though, Clarence? Like, do you think that atheists are siloing themselves into communities that are just atheists?
I think some
because
are.
I don't think that that's widespread, because we have to exist in a predominantly religious society and predominantly religious families and predominantly religious communities. Like, when I see atheists forming communities that are specifically atheist communities, generally there's like a shared goal, right? So either they're recently deconverted or deconstructed, or even not necessarily recently, but are having issues with societal or familial integration and interaction, or they feel as though there's an intersection of religion and society that they see as damaging, like things impacting laws, for example, or education, that they want to make sure that they're, you know, counteracting. It seems to be more like that, because I don't see atheists just congregating and going, yep, we're all atheists, that we don't want anybody that's not an atheist here because this is just for atheists and I will only ever engage with atheists. And atheists are the only people for me forever and ever and ever, and that's it. Like, I don't see a lot of that.
Hey, sorry, Jimmy again jumping in. Hey, Clarence, if you'll do me a favor and mute when you're not talking, I'm having to toggle mutes back for you over here because your audio, I don't know if it's your mic looking for it, but it sounds like a highway and it gets louder and louder the longer you haven't said a word.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty rough. So if you'll just, if on your end you can hit the mute up button, like right now, I just hear behind you. If you can hit the mute button when you're not talking to fix
do you
that.
Hear anything? Do you hear anything now?
It's definitely better. There's a light white noise, and again now it's getting louder and it's getting louder, and now it's basically at negative 20 decibels. It's pretty bad. Clarence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what's causing that, but yeah, I'll see if I can mute between. One second, let me just arrange this.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
All right. Well,
it might be that noise filter setting.
Yeah, and we do have a couple of other calls and not that much longer to take them. So do you want to just respond to what I said quickly, Clarence, and then we'll let you go and move on?
Sure. I appreciate what you said. Basically, where I'm encountering that is online in comment sections and everything, where I'm just encountering, as you know, kind of this theme that I've been on for a while is my concern with toxic atheists and toxic atheism. And I've just encountered more and more people online who make statements like, oh, well, I could never be friends or hang out with anybody who's not an atheist. And I'm just encountering that more and more, particularly in political forums that aren't really about religion or atheism, but religion comes up in relation to politics and things like that. So that was just a concern I have. It sounds to me like, I'm you and both of you and I are kind of in agreement on that. And I just wanted to mention that as a concern. And I'm not saying it's a major force in the atheist community or anything like that. So once again, thanks for taking my call. Good talking to both of you. And I will be looking into your material, Dark Matter, whether you like it or not.
You can't stop him.
I'm going to delete my channel.
Oh gosh, there'll be a riot in the comments section. Don't do that. All right, so let us talk to Don. Hi Don, you're on the line. What would you like to talk about today?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
We can, in fact, yes.
Okay. I have a scenario that I haven't heard talked about, and it's interesting because it's a little bit troublesome for me. I'm 77 years old. I'm going to die within the next 20 years or whatever. And most of the people in my life that care for me, and I say care, and they use the word love, care means good enough for me, are all fundamentalist believing Christians, and I am not. And what I fear is me being on a deathbed someday with a room full of people grieving me going to hell. I don't want that, but they're the people that care for me and I care for. It's just a dilemma. There may be no answer to that, but I bet there are other Christians, other atheists that are facing the same kind of issue.
Yeah, I think so. I know that in my personal life, my partner is an atheist and has very, very, very believing parents and family. And as a result of his deconversion, they kind of re-examined their faith and the hell doctrine and kind of let it go. And they're annihilationists now. They just believe that,
Lucky him.
that that hell is just permanent separation from God, and you just cease existing, and you don't get to spend eternity with God, and that's the equivalent of a punishment because you aren't getting the reward. But I don't really think that there's anything you can do about that. That I hate to say that it's not your problem, because it is something that impacts you if you care about them and you don't want them to go through hardship. But
I want to die in peace, for God's sake.
do you feel it's going to be that traumatic for them? Like you really believe that it's going to be a traumatic event that's going to stick with them?
Well, I'm going to be aware, of what they think while I'm dying.
Okay.
And that's why I guess that there's nothing much could be done about it, but I would bet there are a lot of people that have thought about that.
That's a valid question.
Do you think you would ever lie and say that I do believe and I am a Christian just to kind of get rid of the problem, so to speak?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it is quite a dilemma. That's one I've never thought of before.
Yeah, me either. It's fair. It's like from both perspectives, not wanting people to, suffer unnecessarily. Because that is, from my perspective, unnecessary suffering, because you're creating a construct that's going to cause you emotional pain unnecessarily. But also from your perspective, when you're approaching the end of life, you kind of want to be left alone and not have people attempt to convert you so that they can alleviate that pain for themselves. Like you just want to be left alone. Is there?
It's my death.
Is this something that you could possibly put in writing for them or make known to them? Or do you feel like they wouldn't respect your wishes in that regard?
You mean tell them I don't want them at my deathbed?
No, just tell them that you don't want them proselytizing at your deathbed.
Oh, they wouldn't be doing that necessarily. It's just that they'd be grieving, and I know they'd be grieving.
Okay, so you just know their mindsets, and you feel as though that's going to be the type of the mindset that they're going to be in.
Right.
That is a quandary. I don't know if there's a solution for that I can readily come up with, to be honest with you. Like, I feel as though they're in a situation where there is a construct created that is in that circumstance going to cause them suffering, and the only way to prevent that is for them to get rid of that construct.
And bear in mind, there's going to be grieving regardless.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I don't see me doing anything that's going to change them, and I'm not going to change them, blah, etc. So
you have given me something I have not thought about before, Don. Thank you for that. That it's a good thing to.
That's why I called, because I don't think that it's unusual for people not to deal with that. I'm a solitary individual lone person, and so that's one reason I think about those things.
Well, I appreciate your call. We do have to move on because we have a couple more calls to get through before we have to start taking super chat questions. But thank you for sharing that perspective with us, Don. I appreciate that. It's going to give me something to think about for a while. And have a good rest of your day.
And some other people too, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Everybody who can hear. Thanks, Don. Have a good rest of your day. All right. I think we can squeeze in at least two more. I'm sure we can. Let's talk to Tom. Hi, Tom. You are on the line. What would you like to talk about today? Hi.
Hello, Shannon. Hello, Dark, which I think sounds better
Hi.
than Mr. Matter. But
Mr.
look at Dark.
Better.
Reason I'm calling, I have to say ahead of time that I'm of Irish American descent. And when I was in my 20s, I noticed the troubles in Northern Ireland that people who look like me were shooting people who look like me. And that's kind of what, all in the name of Jesus, by the way. And that's what kind of moved me to where I am now. One thing I wonder, because it's kind of neurological, I know you don't have a lot of time, but do you think, Shannon, that what some people consider reincarnation is genetic memory? And what does the science know about that?
Oh, I don't think it would be anything like genetic memory. Like when people are talking about genetic memory, it's usually things like task orientations, like being able to move, under like being able to like use reflexive actions to find food, like utilizing your senses in a specific type of way, being able to acquire language, those types of things are genetic memory. Like genetic memory is in no way forming like a it's more procedural memory. It's not like rote memory or the type of memory like episodic memory, like memory of life events, which are there's all different types of memories.
You don't think that it could be one of the reasons? I'm not saying it is, but one of the reasons why some people think that reincarnation is.
No, because there's no such thing as genetic episodic memory. Right, like you don't have memories. You don't have. There's no such thing as genetic memories of experiences. There just isn't. Like you don't carry that. That's
my appreciation
memory
for Irish music and the ability to play it just happened, even though I've never been there.
Well, I mean, you know that you're Irish and have spoken about the fact that you're Irish American and have Irish heritage. So the chances of you being interested in that by virtue of you having that heritage and developing an interest are probably what I would put my money on. I mean, I actually oddly just got results from a DNA test today, and I am Irish as fuck. Like super Irish. And I anticipated that was going to be the case. I'm about 40% Irish, and I only knew that I had one Irish parent, so that was surprising to me.
Running around with a name like Shannon would kind of be a giveaway.
Yeah, my middle name's Colleen too. Go take that. I'm super duper Irish and green eyes and everything, and because I've always known that I'm Irish, so things and aspects about Irish culture are interesting to me from a familial perspective, right? Like I was today looking at my DNA results and looking at the area of Ireland that they say that I came from and looking at pictures and appreciating those pictures. Like that's just a thing that you do because you know a little bit about your heritage and you find it interesting. I think that makes significantly more sense than you have an Irish brain that's pre-programmed with Irish music. I don't think that that's likely the case. I mean, Irish music is also great, so anybody who doesn't like it is probably the one with the problem as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Well, you answered my questions. I have more, but I don't have time.
Yes, nor do we, but thank you. We appreciate you giving us a call, Tom. Have a good rest of the day. See you later. Bye.
Thank you, Shannon. All right, goodbye.
You're welcome. Bye. All right.
I had an interesting.
Oh, go ahead.
I had an interesting little back and forth with someone who tried to use the concept of reincarnation to justify child suffering, because that's my go-to when I ask, how can a just like the the arguments of evil and suffering, the response is usually free will, and I try to nip that in the bud by going straight to children or diseases that aren't the result of any, or natural disasters that aren't the result of someone's choice. So it's beyond free will being the culprit.
Mm-hmm.
So someone said, well, if they were bad in a past life, then that would explain why they're suffering now. And it's like, oh God, you're just developing ways to blame innocent people, you know. It's like
It's all about dissonance. It's dissonance resolution, right? Like you get see, my brain doesn't even work that way. Like before you started, I was like, how could you even intertwine the two? But
Yeah.
like if you're doing a series of mental gymnastics, I guess that would make sense. If you still need to retain it somehow, you come up with an even crazier idea to prop up the crazy idea that you're attempting to defend. Why not? While we're dealing in crazy ideas, why not go all in?
Yeah, it's people are trying to make sense of the world in ways that they don't need to, because if you just understand that the universe is indifferent, all of a sudden everything makes sense. You know, bad things are going to happen to good people, good things are going to happen to bad people, and that's because there's no grand scheme, behind the scenes, and so now you don't have to explain it. It's just, luck of the draw.
Yep, totally agree. Let us take one last call before we go off to taking super chats, because you and I both have a relatively hard stop soon, and there's a lot of super chats coming in, and we want to make sure we read those for people. Hi, Lars, you are on the line. What would you like to talk about today?
Hello. I have a couple of things I'd like to mention. Can you hear me?
Okay. We can. Yeah, Lars, go right ahead.
Okay. So, the previous call mentioned about how they are dealing with grief and loss, and you were mentioning about how, oh gosh, I'm a bit unfocused. Sorry.
Okay.
They were talking about how they're not being respected, and people will still tell them, that, Jesus still loves you, and all of that. And I'm currently also going through the same thing, and I'm currently dealing with a lot of frustration with my family. I don't know what to really call it. It's kind of like the classic no hate, like Christian love, where I keep explaining to them my boundaries, but they feel like they know what's best, because obviously my eternal soul is at stake. So, of course, me telling them to not proselytize to me is going to fall on deaf ears, because any harm that they deal to me by not respecting my boundaries is offset by the chance that they could save me from eternal punishment.
Yep. I absolutely. Is this something that you're being inundated with consistently? Like, is this like a regular part of your interactions with them on a whole?
It's one of the reasons why I don't talk to them much anymore.
So you've done some boundary setting activities.
I have the luxury to be able to enforce those boundaries and to have control over them, but I know there's many of my friends who don't have that.
That's the hardest thing, right? That's like what when I have these conversations, one of the first things I ask people is, can you distance yourself and be safe? Because some people are still in a situation of dependence.
Yes, absolutely.
And that changes how you have to interact. So one, I'm glad that you are able to enforce those boundaries. And two, I'm sorry that you've had to. I am really, really sorry that you have to.
It is difficult, because I've realized that I probably going to write a little essay on this, but over the course of my life, I've kind of had my heart hardened, so to speak, and radicalized against well-meaning people, because so many people cause all sorts of harm, and they mean well, and it doesn't matter.
That's fair.
It doesn't matter the effect that they have on me and LGBT people, going through a lot of that bullshit as well. I don't care that you mean well. I don't.
That's valid.
I've reached a point where I'm dealing with trying to figure out a way to just deal with the anger, and come to a point where I can just ignore it. And I have friends who've come to a bit of a, who've reached a point where they just don't, where they can just completely tune it out. But I can't see myself being in that position in the near future.
You don't owe that to anybody. You don't owe it to anybody. So some people feel as though it's like worth entering into the foray, and some people need to engage in self-care and self-preservation, and that's okay. You don't owe anybody your mental health, period. The end, right? And you have a very valid point. Some people can have even potentially the best of intentions and still be causing harm, and the impact that those people have on you and others around you, it's valid to call them out on that impact. It's valid. Like, you don't have to just accept that their intentions mean that they shouldn't be challenged. What they're doing, the outcome of their actions, should be challenged. And if you feel as though you're not in a position where you can challenge back and be healthy, then it's completely okay to just, remove yourself, to say, okay, well, this was a boundary for me. You've crossed the line and I need to remove myself. I think
if I keep hammering on it, I can get through to at least some of my family.
It's entirely, like, if you feel like it's worth it and you feel like you have the mental fortitude to do it, great. Absolutely. Like, any mind that you can.
I need to protect myself right now, but until
sure.
When I would like to resume a relationship with my family, because I do love them as family, even if a lot of the stuff that they do makes me not like them as people.
Well said. Well said. Well, yeah, whatever choice that you make for yourself is the right choice.
So let's go check horse. Oh, also, before I go, Dark Matter, I showed your video about the fainting anti-vax misinformation to my mother, and it really got to her. She was like, "Oh my God, they're lying to me." I think it might be the first step for her.
Good.
Hey.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been really difficult because she's very sensitive, and that video was very calmly presented and in a way that got through to her.
Oh, good. Yeah,
thank you so much.
Want to be. No, thank you for letting me know. Because now the feedback helps, because I want to know what kind of tone is more effective, and for that, when I was trying to be more neutral and present, actual problems, that I see, but not just coming out and saying, look, the vaccines are totally fine and you don't have to worry about them at all, and blah blah blah, and that just kind of builds up a wall that they don't want to listen to you. So I figured I'd say, well, okay, well, let's look at what they're saying and see if it's right or wrong. And that's the approach I took.
Well, sounds like it was effective.
I understand why people. But yeah, that's about everything I wanted to talk about.
Well, Lars, it was a delight to have a conversation with you, and I hope that in the future, what you want to have happen with your family happens for you. And have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much for calling. You're welcome, Lars. Have a good day. See you later. Bye. All right. I think that we should start taking super chats, because I can see them rolling by, and I know it's going to take a while to read them. I will ask our illustrious producer if they can. I don't know who's in the background right now. It seems to be switching between Jimmy and Arden, so I'm not sure who's in charge of us right now. Maybe we've gone rogue, but I think we're ready for super chats. So here is our first one from. Oh man, I'm awful at pancaking. Hello, DarkMatter2525, from a cringeworthy, huge fanboy. You are an absolute legend. Vengeance is one of my favorite videos of all time, and I guess Shannon's pretty cool too. Well, I'll take it. I'll take it. We've already established he's the coolest. So, I mean, what can I do? What can I do from there?
No, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Next one from Dark Matter. Oh, we have a backup Dark Matter. Research has shown that people with variations of the handle Dark Matter are the most intelligent and best at S3X. Just thought that was like super interesting. It really is.
Well, I mean, it is probably extensively scientifically. There's extensive scientific foundation to that, I'm sure.
And I'm sure that there's not a sampling size error at all that anybody would need to worry about when extrapolating that data. But that's okay. I'm sure that there's a 100% correlation between.
And I don't know if it would be appropriate to say that I could provide polling data, but so I'll just.
Okay, next. From Pibothulu. I'm so sorry. I'm awful at figuring out how to pronounce the names. The past was better. The feck it was. I remember being there. Some things were terrible. Are we telling people to get off lawns yet?
Yes, I as you can see, I didn't have a chance to dye my beard, so it's getting pretty white. And I remember I was born in the 70s. I remember the early 90s when I was in high school. Being the statistics. If you look at the statistics, they show that crime was about twice as bad, twice as worse back then. And I remember that. And people just think that things are even since then that things have gotten so much worse. And there are areas of concern, no doubt about it. But but people have these ridiculous notions of this glorified past, this utopia in the past that existed, and if only we can go back to the way things were. And that's revisionism. It's just false. People thought that back then too. You could find all kinds of writings. People like, oh God, if only we can go back to the past. And then you go back 50 years. Oh God, if only we can go back to the past. Go back another 50 years. Oh God, if only we can go back to the past. No, it's not. It's a mythological thing. Just try to make the future better.
Well said. I don't know what MX is. It's a mystery currency 140. Thank you, from Anton Gomez. Did you know some of your cartoons? Oh, is that what it is? Thank you. Thanks, Arden. Mexican pesos, 140 pesos, from Anton Gomez. Did you know some of your cartoons are dubbed into other languages like Spanish? I hope you get some of this super chat money because I have Patreon because I have Patreon AC access problems. I'm assuming that means little sweat emoji.
I really appreciate that. I have seen a few of my videos that have the I've never seen one dubbed. I've seen the subtitles. I really appreciate that because I only speak English, and so I really appreciate people's willingness to do that for me. And I just hope that they're saying the right things because I wouldn't know other.
Because you have no way to check, right?
Yeah, they could be calling me a complete idiot, and I'd be like, "Oh, thank you."
Thank you so much. You're so gracious.
Yeah.
$5 from Whip99. Wow. DarkMatter2525 watched and reposted and shared your content for several years. Glad to see you on the line. We are too.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. It helps a lot when people share my work. It's can be an uphill battle sometimes. I don't do any advertising or anything, so it's people like you that make the channel what it is, to be able to reach people.
Awesome. All right. $4.99 from Melody Kate. Shannon giggle. Shannon's giggle rules. Fox News drools. I agree with that. Like, even the people who are annoyed with my laughter can at least agree it's better than Fox News. I feel like that's a bar even my laugh could hurdle. In the worst of circumstances.
It seems to me that you always change your Twitter handle based on the latest insult that you get, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't your most recent one giggling something?
It was a vile, giggling, nasty mouth woman or something like that. I think is my current.
Called you that?
I usually, when I change my handle, I post a screen capture of the comment. It's almost always in the comment section of a video. As I sometimes go through the comments section, and just like anybody, the negative comments are the ones that stick out to me. There could be 1,000 comments that are like, Shannon, you're great. Shannon, you're doing a really good job. And then one person says something negative, and immediately I'm just like, oh man, I blew that. Right? So in order to get myself out of it, I've decided to just start assimilating the nastiest things I can find somebody say about me into like my personal branding, into my personal perspective, so that I can suck the power out of it. And it really has worked. It really has worked.
Oh,
I really like, and now I just find it funny. Now I just find it funny because the worst thing anybody says about me is my name. And I do that on purpose. They have no power. Yeah. Thank you. $9.99 from the Raven 200. Dark Matter, you were probably the one who kickstarted my loss of faith. Your videos pointing out the flaws in Christianity were quite influential in me becoming an atheist. Thank you. And Jimmy, GFY. Don't go fuck yourself, Jimmy. You're doing a good job.
No, it's fine. But it's an inside joke. I feel like I keep having to explain this, and it's ruining it. It's so we had an episode where people kept sending compliments, and I was getting very uncomfortable. And I was like, "Hey, everybody, this is very uncomfortable for me. I'd way rather you tell me to go fuck myself." And now "go fuck yourself" means that they love me, which is nice because now when people leave comments that say "go fuck yourself," I have no idea which side they're coming from, so I assume they all love me. So that's
similar to my Twitter handle thing. You just sucked all the power out of it. Okay,
I think yours too. I got the idea too. I don't know if you've ever noticed that my Twitter banners are always mean comments from YouTube. Like right now, it's somebody who commented, "Does anyone even like Jimmy Snow?" That's where my banners come from.
I do that too. My Twitter banner right now is like an article that some guy wrote about me. That's Shannon. It says something along the lines of Shannon has no comment on whether or not she's still going to accept blood money for her mockery of Jesus. It was like the best thing I'd ever read. So it's my Facebook banner. It's my Twitter banner.
I have comments.
I might even make a shirt out of it. All right, James Call, genetic memory. How does that translate and transcribe to proteins and behavior? That's a good question. I would have to do some research to be able to articulate it effectively. But genetic memory, it has a lot more to do with things like proprioception and reflex and language acquisition, some of which we don't understand. Like there's still lots of theories about language acquisition, for example. Like there's science isn't settled on language acquisition. We just know that it's something that we're capable of that other animals aren't, and that has to have a component of genetics. So they call it genetic memory. Genetic memory isn't the same type of memory, and I think that maybe is why the call was confusing, because it just means that it's something we're innately able to do. That's what genetic memory means. It's not the same as, remembering an experience or a perception. It's just another way of saying something we're born capable of. I hope that makes sense.
I did very limited research on this for a video I did many years ago about morality. And my takeaway is that human beings would be the least likely to have genetic memory because we're very altricial, the most altricial species. So it's like other animals, like a chicken, would be self-sufficient after 2 weeks after hatching. But like a human being requires years and years and years before they can survive on their own. So we have very few I don't know what you would call genetic memory. Because of the way our brains are, we're learning type brains, so we have to do the learning first. Whereas the behavior of other animals is a little more innate. They know what to do without being taught.
Totally fair. I completely agree with you. But I think that we still have sort of like the innate potentiality there. Like you couldn't teach a chicken to speak English comprehensively, but you can teach any basically human born, which means that there's like something about the structure of our brain that allows for the acquisition of language innately, for example. Right.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. Like, because you can pass a window. Like, so if a child is born, like a baby is born, and you don't ever, like, you stay silent around that child up until the age of like 4 or 5, and they never are interacted with using language, the chance of them acquiring language diminishes to almost nothing because they've passed the window where they can kind of like activate that part of themselves, like where they're like laying down those neural networks. It becomes increasingly harder to do because their brain isn't going through this blooming phase anymore. Like that phase is already passed. So I think you're totally right about that. Whereas maybe like, go ahead.
Oh no, it's all right.
Okay. Oh, this guy.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It's Paul from Paulogia from the other room in the house right now. My will specifies no religious elements for my memorial. My lawyer says it can't be legally enforced, but it's on record to be respected or not. Well, anybody, if I'm the one who's still around, then people would have to contend with me, and I wouldn't recommend that. So that would be enforced. That would most assuredly be enforced. But yeah, which I would want as well. I'd want a party.
Even if it can't be legally enforced, I think anybody who would violate that would look like quite a jerk. I mean, it's like somebody's dying wish.
Right. Exactly. And it's been like, if you want to have like your own sort of religious ceremony, I guess you could do that in and of yourself. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't want it either. I want a party. I want everybody to bring a bunch of guitars and set a bunch of stuff on fire and drink everything in the house and talk shit about me. That's what I want. That is my wish. I won't be around. I want everybody to party and talk crap about me. Next. $11 from Polly Pockets. DarkMatter2525. What inspired you to create your videos, especially Power Corrupts? That's a series I was in. Love your videos, and I am so grateful. Also, hello, Shannon. You're awesome and inspiring. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. For you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it as well. And I'm not. What inspired me to make cartoons? Well, it's been quite a while now, so I don't know if I remember exactly, but I think non-stamp collector, like as far as the medium of animation goes, I saw a non-stamp collector doing, not really animations, but just more like, instead of going on camera and doing videos like everyone else, he was doing these drawings and more like a comic strip style. And I thought, that's cool. I want to do that. And I'll just buy some animating software and learn how to use it. I'm self-taught with animation, and I just started figuring it out and saying what I wanted to say. The religion thing, the religious aspect of it was something that I argued about my whole life. I mean, so that was just a natural fit for me. And I don't know why I've always been inspired to talk about religion, but I remember my earliest memories of doing that were on the playground when I was 8 years old. So I've always done that. I've always been an insufferable douchebag when it comes to religion.
So that's not a new development. Okay, good to know.
No, in college, I gave a speech. We had a speech class, and yes, believe it or not, I took a speech class, and as hard as that is to believe the way I am now, but for some reason, everybody decided to, for their speech where they could talk about anything they wanted, everyone started talking about their religion, and then like the first few people talked about their religion, and everyone followed suit because I guess it was easy to just copy people's ideas for speeches. So it became a nice little circle jerk of Christians and Muslims talking about their religions. And I was one of the last speeches, and I got up there and told them that all their religions are bullshit. And I just gave this speech, and the speech is funny. Yeah, there was a big room full of religious people, and I told them that, and my speech. Yeah.
I love that.
And this, it's like the people had like 15 minutes, and then there was like a Q&A, and most people were up and off, and mine went the whole class period. It was over an hour. Not the speech, but the Q&A afterwards, where they tried to argue with me. But the thing, I think that was a big inspirational moment in my life, because when it happened, I was I could tell that I was affecting people, and I could tell that I was challenging them, and I could tell that they were forced to think about things they never had to think about before, and they didn't have good answers in the Q&A when they tried to get me, and I had answers for them, and they didn't know what to do with it. And then I, at that point, I realized maybe I can make a difference. Maybe I can, this was long before YouTube existed, but when YouTube came along and I noticed that other atheists were talking about this stuff, I thought, hey, I can do that. I've done it before in person, in real life. And, and whenever a religious person gets on the internet and on Twitter or on YouTube and say, you would never say this to someone's face, I'm like, oh, yeah, I would. I said it to whole rooms full of people. That's
awesome. I legit wish I had a time machine so that I could just go be a fly on the wall and have watched that happen in real time, because the balls it takes to listen to however many people get up and give these inspirational talks about their religion, and then to just be like, hold my beer. Guess what, everybody? Yeah. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. That's awesome.
It was a good 50 people. It was a good 50 people, and I'd say about 5 of them were atheists. So
wow,
most of them, yeah.
Good for you for doing that, though, because I think in those sorts of situations, a lot of atheists kind of turtle shell, right? They go, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. This is this is a potential confrontation.
I can't shut up. When it comes to religion, you can't.
Yeah, I don't turtle shell. When everybody around is talking about God, I'm like, let's talk then. You want to talk? Let's talk. Let's talk about it. We can all talk together. I'm the type of person that if a Jehovah's Witness knocks on the door, I'm like, yay! Come on in. Bring in your Bible. Let's do this.
That's how my grandfather was.
Really?
He was an atheist, and he was always very outspoken about it. And I don't want anyone to think that he unduly influenced me when I was a child, because I knew I didn't believe in God before I knew he was an atheist. But I remember when the door knockers would come to him, to his house, and he would invite them in. And like 2 hours later, they would be regretting it so much, because he knew the Bible so well, inside and out, and he had arguments against every verse they brought up. He would have arguments for it. It's like 2 hours of listening to this guy, It's like, yeah, how does it feel, It's like,
right.
But
exactly.
He saved a bunch of other homes from getting their doors knocked down.
At least for the day. All right, $5 from Doc Clay Van Owen. I've got it right this time. I'm a Dark Matter Patreon. We need
Oh, thank
more.
you.
Jeffrey Stat.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It helps a lot. It helps a lot because I do this and I want to be able to do this, and not have to worry about making money so that I can concentrate on doing what I need to do for the channel, and my patrons do that for me. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do what I do with my channel.
Aw, our hearts for patrons. From James Call, $5. This is for Jeffrey. Everybody's lots of love for Jeffrey.
I'll get it to him. I'll try to get it to him.
$4.99 from the Raven 200. By the way, Dark Matter, your takedown of Cartesian Theist, I think that's how it's spelled, was epic. You used the Infinity Gauntlet on him. Oh snap!
my only regret about the way I handled that guy is, you know how people try to tell things about you when you shake their hand, like, oh, it's very firm or it's too soft or whatever, and they think they can tell something about you that way. Mm-hmm. One of the things I do when I shake someone's hand is I gauge what they're doing and I just match them. If they're firm, I'm firm. If they're soft, I'm soft. And I think I tend to do that when people argue with me too. Like if they come in being abrasive and cocky and insulting, I kind of emulate that. And I wish I wouldn't. And that's my only regret with the way I handled Cartesian Theist. Even though I'm glad I exposed him, this guy was such an asshole. He was making sock accounts and harassing people, and I found out about it. I was able to track these sock accounts and find where he actually admitted to it, and I would post that. And anyway, I just wish I would have been a better person, and just kind of rose above his insulting tactics, because I was very insulting toward him as well. And I kind of didn't fully learn the lesson, because I still do it sometimes, but I try not to emulate. I don't want to emulate the people that are attacking me as much as I do. You know what I mean? Like they kind of set the tone, and it's like that's a way of controlling me, because now if they're coming insulting and I come in insulting back, which I do, it's a way of control, and I give into it. So I wish that's one way to better myself, is if I can just not let them control me that way and respond the way I want to respond, rather than the way they're responding to me and giving them a tit for tat.
Sometimes that's more effective. Yeah, like sometimes that's way more effective. When I went into this sphere, I gave myself 3 pillars, and they're my channel pillars, and they're also kind of like my personal mantra. And the 3 pillars are elevate the discourse, advocate for your own understanding, because I don't want anybody to just listen to me and take what I say at face value, nor do I want to do that. And the last one is be better, not the same. I try to think about those 3 things in interactions. I fail often. I have a bitch switch, that's for sure. People have seen it be flipped. That's 100% the case. But I try to kind of come back to those 3 things, because I think in interactions, those are the 3 things that I can lean upon and maybe be the most effective. I haven't seen your debate, but sometimes people deserve it a little bit though too, right? Like that you get to the point where somebody is being so abusive that nothing but raising your voice to them and pointing out what they're doing and calling them out on it will do.
Yeah.
So
I guess you have to be strategic about it and consider who you're trying to convince. Is it more important to you if there's people watching, and if you want to be convincing to them, or if you care about convincing the person you're arguing with? You could take on different tacts,
depending on your goal, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. From Queen O Caffeine. Oh, I like that name. Tell Jimmy I ugly cried at the 3rd episode of The Last of Us. Love you guys. Oh, I did too.
No spoilers,
It was
please.
a really good. No, I won't. Okay, I won't tell you why. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Okay, next question.
I've been watching that now too, and it's a really good show. I've been enjoying it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Me too. We won't spoil it for Arden though. All right, 200 from Insylum. Dark Matter. Your video, if heaven really existed, was one that got me to really start questioning the reality of Christianity. While deconversion took several years, that video marks the start of the process for me. Thanks. Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I never know which video is going to resonate with which person, but people are at different points in their lives, and some things speak to people while other things don't. So I try to take different approaches, things that seem compelling to me, and I try to do them justice. And the way I word things, I try to do it as best I can. And sometimes looking back, I see places where I could have done it a lot better, and I wish I did. But other times I see some of my old work and I'm like, hey, that was pretty good. I didn't remember doing it that way, but I wasn't too bad with that one. Because it's a little over 200 videos now, so everything kind of blurs together.
That's crazy. Yeah, I meant that's a lot. Now I know that these are pesos. Yay, Mexican pesos, 145 from Anton Gomez. Dark Matter. If I translate a video of yours, will I get a copyright strike? Also, is there a minimum Patreon tier that you answer messages from?
No, I don't ever copyright strike anybody. I don't even pay attention to that stuff. So no, but and the Patreon tier messages. No, there's not a minimum. But I'm just bad about messages. Even from I don't even really know who was sending me messages, but every once in a while I just go through a whole bunch, as many as I can, and answer as many as I can, so they can go for a while without being answered, and that's just. It's because a lot of them are complimentary, and I don't really know how to respond. I don't want to say the same thing to everybody that I appreciate it, and I do, and that's usually, and that happens a lot. Is I don't want to be have like a form letter in my head where I just say the same thing to everyone, but there's only so many ways I could say it, and I know it's doesn't. I mean, I'm a shy person. I'm a kind of an introvert. I know it probably doesn't seem that way, but especially when I'm giving speeches and at college and telling people their religions are bullshit. But I am. I'm not a very outgoing person. So sometimes, messages can go unanswered, and I'm sorry about that. But I get to them eventually.
I can be like that also, because there's so many different platforms too. It gets difficult to keep up with them, and sometimes there's like a massive emotional toll. A lot of people want to tell you like very emotional things, and that can like build up and to the point that you kind of need to just take a break, because if you're an empathetic person, especially, and I'm a super empathetic person, you can start to really wear on your mental health. And it's not anybody's fault for sharing that stuff. It's just a fact of how some people deal with that.
One thing too, and I'm guilty of this as much as the next person, is that sometimes when you watch a content creator on YouTube, and you can feel like you get to know them personally, you know what they're all about, and but the thing is that we have to remember is they don't know us at all. So sometimes I can get messages from people that are where it seems like they know me pretty well, but I don't know them at all. So it's a bit of a one-sided relationship. I believe they call it parasocial, but so forgive me if I don't always know the best way to react to a stranger, because but that's just one thing they have to keep in mind.
Yes, that's totally true. Yep. All right, $5 from Red Lightning. Hello, is DarkMatter2525 Kratos, the god of war in disguise? That is a mighty beard. Lots of love for the beard in the chat. I saw lots of mad love for the beard in the chat.
I wasn't expecting to go on camera, so this is more accurate of what I look like and usually, but I got to get rid of all this white. I want to dye my beard so that it's not so Santa Clausy. But no, I'm absolutely not Kratos. Are you joking? No, never. I'm just a normal guy.
Definitely not. All right. Are there any more? Oh gosh,
One
there
more
are.
after
Okay.
this.
From Godless Granny. Sorry? What was that, Arden?
One more after this.
Oh, okay, cool. From Godless Granny. You are still young, Dark Matter. You're still young.
I hope so. I hope I have many more years to come.
Me too. All right. From Minute Rice, $5. I've heard of DarkMatter2525, but never seen his work. Oh, well, now is your chance to go rectify that. Cool to see him on the show. Some interesting calls today. And Jimmy, all of a sudden, go fuck yourself. I feel confident in that one. I feel like I said that with my whole chest.
I was always against the concept of blasphemy, but never seeing my work, I think that should qualify. Right?
Could you imagine the absolute temerity, the audacity? Yes. How dare he?
Mm-hmm. And a similar punishment should be instituted.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
The rack for you, and then hell. Eternal separation from DarkMatter2525. Oh, that's okay. I got cookies. Hi, I got cookies. Thank you for doing such a good job modding. Jimmy, go fornicate your genitals. Go fornicate your genitals. That's great. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here with me today. I was super excited that you agreed to come on.
Screening tonight. Sorry. Just wanted
to
make sure that
thank you, Brian, for screening. Thank you to the mods in the chat.
Ryan,
thank you to our fabulous production team.
It's actually our mutual friend, Ryan. Ryan, not Brian.
Oh!
Yeah.
Cool. Hi, Ryan.
Oh, also, there's another one of these things.
Another one of these things? Oh my gosh, people just won't stop. From 3 a.m. Ryan. Yeah, Jimmy. Or is that supposed to be, yeah, Jimmy? I don't know what inflection to read into that. You choose your own inflection. It's like build your own adventure, only with a super chat. So thank you to all of the people who participate in this show, our production team who is doing a phenomenal job, to all of the moderators in the chat, and to Ryan for screening calls tonight. Thank you, Ryan. Ryan, who I've met, IRL. And thank you to DarkMatter2525 for being here, and all of the other people who have committed the blasphemy of not seeing your channel should go and see. And look at the production team. Look at the adorable production team down in the bottom corner. Go and sub to DarkMatter2525's channel right now. I will not accept any excuses. I'm watching you. And as always, everybody. Oh, okay. All right. Oh my gosh. It's never ending. What's happening? What's happening? Super chat. Are we even on air anymore? This is chaos. What's up?
I had the outro ready.
DarkMatter2525. Are you going to dye it blue like Aron Ra? Oh, that would be fun. You should dye it a fun color. Do it. Do pink.
This is the color. This is like the last time I dyed it. This like has moved down to this area now, so That'll be the color it'll be. I'm boring.
Oh, not blue. You're not going to be adventurous.
No, I'm super boring.
Well, you're not actually boring. What are you?
I am the conservative Christian whisperer. See, if I dyed it blue, they would stop listening to me. But because I kind of look like a mountain man or lumberjack or something. They're more, for some reason.
They think you're one of their people.
Right. Like I don't like I don't know if I look like the typical supporter of trans rights, but I mean, I absolutely support LGBT people, and I think it kind of helps sometimes to look the way I do in order to it's almost like an undercover agent, sneaking behind enemy lines and talking sense to people. Buddy, that's my boy.
Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. He's like, yeah, I'm over it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I think that we've finally come to an official end of Super Chats. And I've thanked all the people I need to thank. I will thank you again, DarkMatter2525. Aron, are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Help out. Everybody help elevate the discourse. Bye.